Hello, everyone, and welcome to my bookish chat of the week. And this one's a little different since I know typically I am very author heavy on here. And this week I'm actually going to have a co host in the bookish field, but of a very different flavor. And we'll get to that in just a moment. But I do want to remind everybody that I'm currently on the pre-launch stage of an upcoming Kickstarter, and this will be for my first special editions, and I'm super excited about them. They're for two big wonderful omnibuses that will encompass all 16 novellas of my Dark Vikings fantasy, and they come with all sorts of perks, including my beautiful iridescent foiling, colored end paper, character art. So much is going into this wonderful set. So if you're interested, check out the thing you click on my profile. But until then, right now I'm gonna go connect with my co-host and her the invite, see if she sees it, and we'll get things rocking and rolling in just a moment. It's exciting. Hello.
Hey, there. 1 second.
I can hear you. Yeah, there's something you have to click.
I can figure it out. I'm a grown up. I'm not an old millennial.
I struggle with that on the other side all the time, where it's like so many people have to do it on my end, where they have to like switch the screen. And anytime I'm on the inverse, I'm like, wait, how do I do this thing again? I'm supposed to know.
It's weird.
It does. How are you?
Good. Tired. Honestly, we're already starting planning Dragon Con 40. It's kind of insane to think about.
I mean, it's insane to think about that event is about to be 40 years old. So
yes, I mean, it's been absolutely awesome, and there's definitely going to be some neat things that I think we're going to try out and if they go well, we'll do them again in year 50.
I love it. That's exciting. Well, before we get too ahead of ourselves, let me let you introduce yourself and what you do in the bookish community, aka the fantasy.
Oh, and I just put out. This is actually really great timing because I also just put out a new thing on Facebook that I haven't announced here yet. Yeah.
Go take the lead.
I am Cisca Small. I am the fantasy lit track director for Dragon Con. I've been doing that since 2018. And for 5 years, I was the co-host and helped organizing Blasters and Blades podcast. I got a little burnt out doing 3+ hours of interviews a week, plus the scheduling and the management, and just got to being a lot. So I've taken a break the last couple years as life got a little busy. And then from there, I've volunteered with other conventions. I was the programming director for Deep South Con last year, which is kind of like Worldcon in that it moves around and is often hosted by another convention.
Yes.
And then I am now starting to do professional beta reading or early reading. So, and it's a little different. Like I've talked with a couple of my friends who are involved in publishing to try and work out exact terminology and like what is actually useful for people and what price points are so that it's a better price point, because so it will involve doing a lot of developmental feedback, like here's where it's going slow, here's where you can pick it up, fluff up here, here's the white rooms, character development. But it's going, instead of charging, developmental editing costs between 7 to 10 cents a word, right? Yeah. I'm not doing it per word. I'm going to just do it as a flat fee per book. So it'll be about $500 a book plus feedback on tropes, and as well as if I find a scene that's particularly marketable, particularly with like the current marketing trends so like going through this would be a good scene for you to put into that carousel that people are doing of the feedback of the dialogue. That's the word, dialogue. Sure. The dialogue between people. And then if the author wants, I'll give them suggestions on market comps, and particularly also an explanation of why it's a comp, because it's one thing to sit there and say, oh, well, this is like the Gilded Blood. Okay, I haven't read the Gilded Blood yet, so can you please tell me why? Yeah. And then if they want suggestions, I worked recently with an author, Tabitha Strickland, on doing some of this for one of her books, and she's now has it and is pending a book offer potentially with a publisher for not one. I worked with her on one book, but for 2 of her books, because they were like, yeah, no, we actually like send us both.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, one of the things I'm not doing grammar edits, and I'm not going to do spelling edits. I'm not very good at those.
Yeah, well,
But
that's
I
why
will.
there are different editors for different things. So
There's
just
different editors for different things. That's why we have an entire panel at Dragon Con called Red Inks, Blood Red. I think we vary it. One year was Blood Red Everywhere, um, which is really funny because people came in not just seeing the title, they had no idea what it was about. And they're like, "What is this panel about mass murders in the middle of the day at Dragon Con?" I'm like, "That's a good idea for next year. It might feel like it."
Yes.
And but so I worked with her on some of it, and some of it was developing. Every author has a tick word, right? That you start adding in, and then you're like, "Oh wow!" And I think 3% of her manuscript was the word "and" when she started, and so it was. I did some editing of here's a way to say it without using the word "and." I will admit most of that was in the first couple chapters, and once she got into the flow of the book, it kind of disappeared. So and so, but knowing that and not having to pay somebody 10 cents a word, that being an and 3% of your manuscript being the word and I think we knocked it down to like 0.5%. That would have been a lot at 7 cents a word.
Yes. Yes, I'm actually about to send one of my pieces to a developmental editor, but I'm doing one more edit on my end to try to just make sure everything looks good, because if I'm going to pay the price for it, I want to make sure, we get down to the nitty gritty and not catch, the overt obvious stuff. So people who are doing what you're doing, that kind of heavy hitting beta reading that is with that developmental editor kind of flair, that's an amazing thing. And I have already noted that for the future in case.
So I will tell you, because I love you, but if you're going to hand me something the size of Brandon Sanderson, I'm going to look at you and go, this is not a $500 read. Now, and so, but one of the things also is I may or may not, it depends on how busy I get with doing this, also do reviews for the book when it finally goes. Because I'm the person, when I write a review these days, or read a book knowing I'm going to review it, I outline it. My review a little bit so that I know, and so that also I can come back to it if somebody's like, hey, and I'm like, makes a comment, I'm like, let me go double check before I open my mouth and insert Isaac Asimov into like Rachel Renner's book or something like that. I did that in high school and I got away with it. It was amazing. I wrote a book on I got an A on my paper about Prelude to Foundation by Isaac Asimov. My mother read the book and she looked at the paper and she looked at me and she goes, this is not Prelude to Foundation. What book did you write a report on? And I went, I don't know. Yeah. I got an A though. My mom's like, I'm not certain that this is exactly ethical.
Yeah. Probably not. But no, how long have you been? Okay, so you said that this kind of beta reading is relatively new. When did you decide to start on that? Because I don't know if you were doing that last time we saw each other really recently. I don't know when you.
A little bit. So I've been doing some beta reading for some authors who are friends of mine for a while, like Mel Todd and Jenny Posthumous and some other people, and doing reading for kind of like people will give me a manuscript for a review. And then a couple years ago, I had kind of the idea of doing something to help authors with marketing, but I wasn't 100%. Some of it's confidence, really. And I was not 100% certain. Life got kind of crazy. And I wasn't 100% confident of doing it on my own. I had somebody who said that they were going to help me with doing it. That be very careful when you start seeing. If you see orange flags when starting a business with somebody, don't. They're not orange. They're actually red. So that ended up not happening. And then I just kind of recently got into it. Honestly, I think it was having somebody, I reached out, kind of Tabitha put out a thing on TikTok with, these are some of the tropes and this is why you might not like it. And I went, actually, I kind of want to read that. So I filled out her advanced reader thing, or beta reader thing, and then she and I talked a little bit back and forth, because when people say alpha reading, beta reading, it's like editing. It's a really big, broad term. where what people mean may be different. And so I didn't want her to waste her time by sending me a manuscript that I probably would have bought, and her miss out on that sale, which that's my reasoning. And everybody's always told me that's silly because you talk about books all the time. So I will get money out of this.
You're promotions just by walking around any convention.
I do. I don't mean to. I just do. It comes naturally. Which is funny because I have severe social anxiety and I'm a huge book nerd, but I'm also LD and dyslexic. So go figure. But I think that's what also makes me really good at this is because I don't speed read. I read every single word on the page, which is what you want in a developmental person or in an editor, because you really want to know that you got the right thing in the right spot, because it can change a lot of meaning sometimes, right? And so working with her was really great because I gave her a bunch of feedback. I'm like, I'm not certain if this is actually what you want. She was, this is actually what I wanted more. And oh my God, thank you. And then when I took it to actually John Hartness from Falstaff, and he was looking at it and he goes, no, you have a good eye. This is a good, I want the book. So if you saw me at Multiverse, and we were joking and I was like, wait, say that again. That's what we were talking about. So.
Perfect. Well, I'm actually going to pivot for a moment because I think a lot of people, especially since I'm going to, hopefully, if this app is nice, I'll be able to repost our chat to my YouTube later so people can reference it and all that kind of stuff later on. But I think a lot of people, and this is just me because the type of author I am, are fascinated with the convention lifestyle for authors and being on panels and, you know, what it means and what you can do. And a lot of people may think the selling side, but there's also a lot you can do as an author to market yourself in other ways. So since you are the fantasy lit director of Dragon Con, what would you recommend someone that's interested and potentially applying, like, how do you, let me figure out how to frame this question. Okay, so if someone's interested in applying but never has before, are there any things that you want them to check off with before they apply? Like, you need to have X amount of books, you need to have this kind of experience.
I strongly recommend, and I've talked, so it's very funny because the guest committee is kind of shrouded in secret. Like, we don't really know who's on it. Like, they won't ever give us a list. Like, not even, and it's not you guys. They won't even give us the list, okay? So one of the things that I highly recommend, and I have kind of tortured and pulled out of the guest committee members or people I know, they're like, I'm not on the guest committee. And I'm like, bullshit. Bullshit. I think Bill Fawcett tried saying that one time and I looked at him and went, bullshit. He's the senior director for like all of literature. Bullshit. So, and I think some of that is because it gives people a level of anonymity and safety from being pestered to death, as well as they rotate the members. Because remember, even at the board level, Dragon Con is volunteer. And so they pull in people like for costuming to talk about the costuming guests. So there's no one committee probably. And I have been told it is strongly advised that you have 4 books out, or you be really interesting and complex. And what I mean by that is Les Johnson's a great example. Les Johnson came as an attending pro very early on in his author career with only like 2 books out, but he's also a NASA scientist. So while he writes science fiction, he also lives the science in space. So because our goal ideally is that if you're coming, we understand Dragon Con is an investment. We do give attending professionals a badge. I think we even give their spouses a badge, as well as the guests. But we also understand there's a lot of other time and money investment. And we want to get you on 4 panels. Our goal is to get people on a minimum of 4 and a maximum of 10. So I tell people, you're not a one-trick pony. Jennifer Blackstream was, years ago, back before she was coming to Dragon Con, I forced her to send me her bio. I'm friends with Jennifer, and I'm like, send me your bio, woman. And so I made her send me her bio, and then I went, why don't you talk about the Masters in Psychology chats? I don't use it. And I went, I bet she writes urban fantasy paranormal stuff, mysteries.
Oh, yeah, you're using it in your writing.
He just doesn't realize she uses it, but it also made her more more useful, almost think of yourself as a character sheet sometimes is what I tell people. Because most people have character sheets or experience with them. And I'm like, it now makes it so that you can go on the science tracks, panels on psychology, panels on like how to not burn out like an author, because you have the author perspective and the mental health training. She goes, oh, there was one, Dirk Ashton. I literally messaged him and I went, what do you mean you have a PhD in film and you defended your thesis as the Tolkien Society and you never put that in any of your paperwork?
Yeah, you probably could do that stuff. Because, like, I mean, when I've applied, I'll mention other things that I feel like I have some kind of proficiency in, and ended up one year being in the history department, history track, talking about Vikings and their the history of them in Britain. And it was just one of those things. I was like, well, I'm confident about this, and it was really neat. But even though I'm applying, thinking, okay, fantasy and, you know, all the various kind of literature tracks and writing, and then all of a sudden I was just like, okay, let's do this. You never know.
And that, I actually just put up a video today on the long bio. And this is actually a huge part of why I got onto TikTok, was so that I could, I mean, jokingly say, I bring the good word of DragonCon, I guess, but of sharing this information to more people than just like the few people I know.
Yes.
Okay, there's probably more than a few people I know by now, but so that people can sit there and go, well, how do I do XYZ? Because DragonCon, I understand, is a huge beast. It is sometimes hard to know which scale of the dragon you're looking for. And so,
I like that.
So I'm trying to help people find the right one and get what they need and want out of it. Not just authors, but also fans. I've had people reach out to me about, hey, I moderate panels at DragonCon every year, but how can I turn that into an application to be an attending professional?
Actually, I want you to describe, because there will be people listening in that have never heard of DragonCon. I know it's shocking for people where we are, but like let's actually like explain what DragonCon is. So we're like we have framing.
So officially, DragonCon is a multimedia pop culture convention in Atlanta, hitting year 40 in 2026. And I think it is possibly the world's largest fan-run convention for that. So we have a minimum of 75,000 guests, people a year, memberships. And we are a community, so we don't say tickets sold. We talk about memberships. Yeah. So your membership is your badge to get in for the year. But we have tons of online communities on Discord, on Facebook. Honestly, TikTok has remarkably few people from DragonCon on here, it seems. It was really kind of funny. Maybe it's just my algorithm. So
I was gonna say, well, because I've been a moderator for the book talk panel for last few years at DragonCon. It is interesting because when I'm searching, because in that particular panel, I actually have to go and reach out to authors because the director doesn't, know.
No, so we don't get
that obligation. But then I have to find out which ones are going to be attending, and it is shocking how big the literature community is and how small the number of authors and writers and bookish people and narrators are that are also on this platform, which is perplexing.
DragonCon is honestly, and this is something, when I took over in 2018, which was such an eventful year, I had like 80 days to plan the entire event. It was so much fun. I survived, and I did not have, I had a few panic attacks, but that was mostly like the curtain's about to go up moment.
Yeah.
Is that literature, there was a lot of things about, are they going to change the literature departments or anything? DragonCon has always been very literature focused. There are lots of people, because they see the glitz and the glam of, we've had Jason Momoa, we've had the guys from Supernatural. Yep. They see that glitz and glam and they kind of bypass and don't always see the books. But we have about 600 guests come every year. I guess guests and attending professionals, and about 250 of them are authors. That's probably a larger percentage than most conventions that size.
Yeah.
And I run one of I call the purebred tracks because I'm a jerk. So sci-fi, science fiction literature, writer's track, and fantasy literature, we're all housed together. And we are the ones that just deal with books. We have other tracks that get a total of like 9 tracks that touch on books, because we have young adult, apocalypse rising, alt history, high fantasy, urban fantasy, horror, and they do books and all the other stuff. So sometimes I'm like, I have to work a little hard to get shiny and cut through the noise. Yeah. But that's okay, because I have some amazing events that do that for me.
You definitely do.
But so Dragon Con, we do have a wonderful sense of community, and art literature will always be at the heart of Dragon Con. Pat Henry, who was the president who just announced his actual official retirement this past week, like yesterday, I think. He owned a comic book shop for many, many years. And so literature's always been really at the driving heart of it. So
that is really well. Let me actually ask you, how did you get involved with becoming a director, and what does being a director of a track of something like Dragon Con entail?
So I back in the dark ages when I was in college, my friend Julie Garner dragged me to my first Dragon Con. And at my first Dragon Con, I had been there for all of about maybe 2 hours. And this was the first, I want to say it was the first year we had 2 hotels. That tells you how the size difference. Because if you don't know, Dragon Con's now 7 buildings and 5 of them are hotels. Yeah. And so it was a very long time ago, back when this century was new, quite literally. And we ended up in line behind Todd McCaffrey for the Night at Bree panel. And she looked at me and she goes, you should talk to him. Because if you don't know me, you clearly don't know me if you don't know that I'm a huge Anne McCaffrey fan. So I'm like, no. And she tapped him on the shoulder and said, she wants to talk to you, but she won't. And I went, I will kill you. We ended up talking till like 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, getting dinner in the Hyatt restaurant. I met Bill and Jody Lynn that night, Bill Fawcett and Jody Lynn, and it was hilarious because after Jody left the table, I was like, it would be really cool one day to meet Jody, because he was like, are there any authors you'd want to meet? He goes, you just had dinner with her. And I'm like, say what? I'm like, maybe you should use people's last names. So I've known Bill and Jody since the dawn of my Dragon Con time, which is probably part of why I ended up in this spot. But I ended up volunteering for a number of years with what was then the Anne McCaffrey track. And then I got a hair up my crazy butt and went feral and joined the army. So I joined the army, and when I came back, fantasy literature had been born. So fantasy literature actually came out of, as Dragon Con has expanded, we have kind of reduced the number of single IP panels, like tracks. And just to kind of better serve our entire fandom and community. It also, unfortunately, the authors started dying too. So there was that problem. And then, so science fiction and fantasy literature used to be one department. Sue Phillips, as the senior director, was asked which one she wanted to keep, and she took science fiction literature, and thus fantasy literature was born. And for a number of years, Anne McCaffrey's panels were housed there because the department that became fantasy literature pretty much 100% came from the Anne McCaffrey tracks. So that's why people are like, well, it's really fantasy and Dragon Con. I'm like, no. There was politics there that you don't understand.
Yeah, it's still.
Yeah, my first year was the last year that Anne McCaffrey's works were housed there, and the next year they were in there. And I had talked with the senior directors about moving it because I felt it was truer to Anne's work. Mm-hmm. And because I really think if you decide to call the Dragon Riders of Pern fantasy, not science fiction, you remove the true landmarks and breaking glass moments that Anne did of being the first woman to win a Hugo, one of the first women to be a full-time author in science fiction who was openly female. Because Andre Norton was female, but Andre is a gender-neutral name. Yeah. Anne is not. Yeah. So, and honestly, having known her, being good friends with her son, that was very important to me, more so than keeping my favorite books to where I can talk about them. And which is also why we have The Gather, actually.
Oh, yeah. You should actually talk a little bit about The Gather, because again, that's another fantastic aspect of DragonCon for bookish people who are the readership who are looking for new things to discover, as well as authors to be able to showcase their work. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
The Gather is, so in 2018, we had a sudden change of leadership for the track, and I got brought in. And one of the first things I asked Regina Kirby, my senior director, is so if you go to conventions, big conventions and small conventions have a very different vibe. And I love the vibe of like the author's alley and stuff like that. That's really fun. You get to network, you get to talk with authors get to talk with fans. And it's super fun, but it was hard to do in something that is 7 buildings and 75,000 people. Mm-hmm. So we came up with the idea of doing a gather. So if you've read the Pern books, there's every so often there is a gather at least once a month of people, and it's literally an open market and a party and a chance for people to socialize and network, and there's singing and dancing in a bar and shopping, which is what we have at the Gather, minus the music, because nobody wants the music. It gets noisy enough, and honestly, I really like it. I do joke that it is the most sensory appropriate party of the night. Mm. And we do have a bar. So that's really where the idea kind of came from, because I was never the cool kid growing up. And when people look at me and tell me I am now, I look at them and I go, "You are so confused. Who have you fooled? Ha ha! Underneath my mask is a person who has way too many books."
That's not a problem. I'm just saying, I'm a book dragon. That's not a problem for me.
This is not my problem. This is not my problem. See that?
No problem.
By the way, all 3 of those shelves are books that are what I call my specials. So they're either limited editions, signed, or collectors, or ARCs.
Yay!
And I have 3 more in the other room.
See, I need to expand my bookshelves, and because I need a lot more. I'm now building a book wall, or a little hedge, a book hedge that kind of trails through the house, because I need shelves to put them in. So it's not a problem. You just need more shelves. That's the only
exactly. So, but the problem also is I have more at my parents'.
Yeah,
and they would like me to get them out.
Well, I can.
Well, I'm also getting to the point though where my mom and I have to have some negotiations. Like, are you keeping this Mercedes? Well, no, my brother by default gets all the Mercedes lackeys. His favorite author of all time.
Okay, fair.
And he only has one author on that list, so he gets all of them.
Fair. Okay.
And but it's like, are you taking this Laurel K. Hamilton series, or am I taking this Laurel K. Hamilton series? And my brothers go, you put her on Boinking Beasties, right? Yeah. No. They're just like, anybody you think is qualified for that panel? No. So, but I came by my dorkiness, honestly. My mom was an avid reader. And because I wasn't the popular kid, I wanted a place where all the authors kind of came together and hung out, regardless of whether they were indie, small press, or trad, mm-hmm. and where fans could find them.
Yes.
And, well, you can't hold authors hostage for 4 hours. You really can't. police get called, the board gets upset, things like that happen. I mean, they even volunteer themselves to be taken hostage now. But we do have about 73 authors at the Gather with selling space. So, and the selling space is because we do understand how expensive DragonCon is. And we do it Friday night at 8 o'clock, time 8. Well, this year we're starting at actually 8:30. So we're going from 8:30 to 12:30, so still 4 hours. And so it's after the vendor hall closes. People can come, they can have fun, and it's only 4 hours so the vendors don't scream. So yeah, I understand the vendor hall is also expensive, so they need to make their sales. And but this way people get to network, they get to meet people, they have a ton of fun. It's always hilarious to see how many books my brother leaves with. Especially because he does not read and he always leaves with at least 3 books.
Yeah. But as an author, I was just like, I always respect people like that. And I'm like, I don't even care if you buy them just to stick them in the neighbor's little free library, because I know people who do that. And that's great. Yeah. But it's nice that someone's...
There's a gentleman called Book Santa who hits a lot of the small cons, and he buys... He is known for going up to a table and buying at least one of every book, and he literally puts them in his trunk.
I met him.
He's awesome. He's super nice. But also that is one of the ways that you can do very good marketing at DragonCon is by getting on panels, and you network on the panel because you're meeting the other authors. But you also get a chance to cross-pollinate your fandoms. Because people will go on a panel, watch a panel, and then go, I need that person's book, and go buy it. I think it was Gail Martin last year in an online discussion group said she literally traces her sales, and she sees an uptick in sales when she's put on the website, when the app comes out, and then as soon as she starts doing content at DragonCon, she sees an increase in her sales every year without fail. So because she can track ebooks immediately. So it's honest, and it's a great way because people are coming to find those books and those special treasures to take home.
So let's cover little panels, because I know panels and the topics shift throughout year to year. Yes. Some kind of repeats, others but shift dramatically.
I have some that are my anchor panels.
Yeah. What are some of your favorite ones that you've had in the past? And these could be just one-time ones or one of your ones that you're...
One of the ones we did this year, and we're going to be bringing it back, we already know for next year, and it was its first year this year, was Books That Changed the World.
Ooh.
So that one was a really fun one because we didn't limit it to, it had to be science fiction or it had to be fantasy. So they talked about everything from Charles Dickens and Narnia to Anne McCaffrey. So because, and why those books change. And they didn't have to be globally changing either. They could just be, this book changed my world.
Yeah.
Like Anne McCaffrey's book, The Rowan, is what changed my world. Not Dragon Rise of Pern, which is her seminal series.
Yeah.
So you just, and because we're in a lot of turmoil and change. It doesn't matter how you view what's going on. You could view it one way or another. There's a lot of turmoil and change. And reminding people, of the really amazing parts of fantasy and science fiction is that you can unite a whole bunch of people, because for one, you're taking things out that you're not talking necessarily about blacks versus whites. You're talking about alien species versus alien species. And you can make the allegories and kind of make the point without necessarily totally throwing people out of the story and into being upset.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. Sometimes, I mean, literature, and no matter what genre, but definitely when it comes to like sci-fi, fantasy, and some of these genres, second world genres, or things that you're dealing with other kind of otherworldly entities or different entities, there are some great means to deal with real world issues in a way that's approachable and palatable to people that may otherwise feel it very volatile or, hypersensitive. So I agree.
Yeah, and it's good for that, but I also wanted, like, we joke sometimes that fandom unites us all, because the nice thing is people can have a disagreement. Some people get a little more intense than others, but people can have a disagreement, and we can or at least agree to have a disagreement about, I don't know, who made the best Green Lantern, and at least we're not arguing about politics for a while.
Yeah.
And we're reminding people why we actually like each other. And that there is a uniting factor here. Literature was huge for me. Dragon Con was huge for me. It was my first convention, and I love and I want to nurture the Dragon Con community, because for me, it was the first place I ever went where I didn't have to explain or defend my love of a book series.
Yeah. And it's nice to be able to find, again, that group that shares whatever passion you share. And depending on how niche down your passion is, sometimes it is hard to find people. And it's one way to connect with someone virtually, online, or, those kind of things. But when you're in that physical space with someone else who enjoys the same thing, there's a different element to that. And it is neat that cons, especially the things like Dragon Con, can bring people together in their fandoms and their niches. Yeah,
that is one of the fun things about some of the niche panels. Sometimes they're harder to do. I've been wanting to do. We did Screams from Inside the Booth, which was about audiobook narrators telling authors what they wanted, like things we wish you'd tell us ahead of time, type thing. Or I want you to know this. I've been wanting to
authors was on there. Was that one where Jason Doro was on? Because he was on a couple of these narrators.
Because he's like, I'm not a narrator. And I went, no, but you are a voiceover artist and an author, so you should know what questions to kind of ask to guide it. Yeah. And he did a remarkable job. It's up on YouTube for fantasy literature at Dragon Con. And but I'd been wanting to do that panel for years, but it was a matter of getting the right people there. So, because we get kind of handed a pool of people over here, and that really is our duty, is to make sure that we get those people, panels, and content first. And after that, we add in other people. So... And I know it kind of sucks, but there's also an entire admin factor of Regina sends people their schedules in August, and if you're not in the database, then I have to send you your schedule.
Yeah.
And did you hear what I did to Marshall Moore?
He said something about he didn't realize he was supposed to be on one of the Cozy Fantasy.
I forgot to tell him that I put him on the Cozy Fantasy panel.
Yeah.
I totally forgot to tell him.
Yeah, he mentioned that one to me, and we laughed about it. But that's
because he pitched the panel at Jordan Con, and I was like, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, I should probably put Marshall on here, and then that also goes to sometimes when we're doing paneling, it's late at night because I always have some panel that normally turns out pretty phenomenal that hits me about an hour before the database closes.
Oh, haha.
Always one. So we do have deadlines, and that's one of the things that's also kind of crazy. I tell people I'd rather have you pitch it early than late, because our programming deadline is, as in it switches to read only, is July 19th.
Wow.
And so, we need time to cross-check everything, make sure that we're not, you can only be in one panel room at a time, right?
Yeah, that's what they tell me. Yeah, I
mean, that's what everybody says when I ask them that. They're like, I'm pretty sure there's only one of me. So we have to do a bunch of logistics and on balancing some of that aspect. And we also have some authors where we know we can panel them back to back if they're on the same hall.
Yes.
But if you're trying to from the West End to the Sheridan or Cortland in 30 minutes, good luck. You better be young and spry.
A couple years ago, I had that issue where I looked at everything and I was like, okay. And then I started, because I'm one of those hyper planners, so I want to know exactly which building, all that. And there was that 30-minute interchange, and I emailed, I think it was Regina, and I was just like, is this possible? And she was like, nope. Which one do you want? And I was like, well, I'm moderating this one, so I'm going to stick with that one. So
Yeah, I got fussed out one year and they went, this person's not going to tell you, but you almost killed Bob Magoo and David Boop. And I'm like, what? And they're like, well, they were trying to get from the Sheridan to the Hyatt in 30 minutes. I'm like, oh. And they're not young and spry. Like, I might do that to Marshall just to see, just because it's funny. But he's also young. He's a martial artist. He can do it. He can do it. Yeah. He like goes running and stuff. Ugh.
Yeah.
But
no, yeah. Well, he's a martial arts instructor named Marshall from the Marshall Islands. You know, trying to think about that.
Yes, I have, and I'm like, really, dude. So. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm small, and I will tell people, but I'm so small, and they're like, I'm small by definition. It's in my name, because I'm 5'11". If you haven't met me in person, I'm 5'11", and I am actually short in my family.
Yeah, I was gonna say your brothers are fairly tall too. Yeah.
6'4" and 6'3".
Yep, very tall family.
So, so there's a lot of, we have a Facebook group that we use to coordinate with, and some of my friends know the weirder the question, that come July, they may get some very weird questions. Mm-hmm. And I'll be like, I had a panic of putting David Chofin on Boinking Beasties, because for some reason I decided, looking at his covers, that he wrote mech, not mature content.
Okay, yeah.
And I literally called a friend of his who's a good friend of mine, and I went, does Chofin write corn? And she goes, yes. Why are you asking me that? Well, not technically, but... And I'm like, no. Just no. Yes, no. We're good. Okay.
We're good. That's all. I'm trying to schedule one of the late night. And let me also clarify for anybody listening to this. There are different types of panels during the day. You have more family friendly. And then there's a certain time at night it switches over to more mature
10 o'clock. And we have been informed that panels that start before 10 and continue after 10 must remain family friendly through the end. Yeah. We will sometimes push the barrels. We can be a little stubborn and feral sometimes as directors. Particularly me. I am known for them going, that's not how we do it. Really? Where's the instruction manual? When I started, I got a 2-hour dinner at Chick-fil-A with Regina talking to me about things, and I got 8 pages of instruction about how to, most of it didn't even apply to me.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like there needs to be a little more of
we have more of a manual now, but I haven't read it. At this point, I'm like,
at this point you've done it, so you know you're
already been doing it. I'm probably the reason you had to put the manual together.
What not to do by Regina.
Here are rules we made, and I did tell my volunteers my first year, if I have to make a rule because of something you did, I will name it after you.
Oops. Okay.
And I will unabashedly, and if I have to type it up, I will unabashedly type it up and write and call it the something protocol. I'm not nice. We have, so I was a veteran. I am a veteran, and we have 2 other veterans. Yeah, it doesn't really change. So we've had people come in and go, you guys run like a military organization. We're like, we're sorry. Oops.
I mean, that's probably, for as big of an event this is, you kind of need people who are hyper-structured. So yes, you kind of need that.
But also people who are willing to stop and go, like I tell everybody, it's the mission first, right? The mission, like, what is our goal here? And I'll tell people I have 3 masters. I have the fans, I have the authors, and then, of course, the overlords. And generally, if you can keep 2 of those happy, you're good. Mm-hmm. So I've been pretty successful at keeping all 3 of them happy. So
it's a juggling. It's a bit of juggling. I get. You know, you're still, yeah, I get that.
I did have the senior. So the last year we only had half of International North for the gather. I may have had the entire room chanting, "Give us a bigger, larger room" when the senior director came in.
Perfect.
I did say I can be a bit feral. But yeah, I mean,
well, make a point.
I mean, but there's a lot of logistics aspects about that go into Dragon Con that people just don't ever see. And it's always funny when some of them come out in the app, like, Writer's Track used to be, fantasy literature used to be where Writer's Track is now. And there's a column in that room. And every year I would have 20 comments of, can we get rid of the column? I'm sorry, I'm not going to have the Hyatt burn down and get rebuilt. So, no, I can't get rid of the column. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's
just a figure. You can decorate. Make a figure. Do something.
I had one this year. I had 3 comments that Matt Dinneman looks very tired and needs a rest.
He does. He always looks tired though, but he always is on the go.
He is. And I had one that James Hunter needs one too. And then it was funny because we changed the start time of Page to Stage, which is our interpretation focused costume contest that focuses on bringing characters from books into cosplay. Mm-hmm. And we moved the start time from 8 to 8:30, and I had 5 people telling me that it was started late, and I'm like, it actually started 60 seconds early. So no, it did not start late.
Wow. Let me ask you, if someone was going to Dragon Con for the first time, is there any recommendations you have or any things to say, don't do this? If they're a first time, someone who is interested again, be it an author or a reader, just wandering.
I would say probably actually regardless of the convention, regardless. Does not matter the convention or the convention size, or if you're a reader who wants to get into reviewing books or organizing things, or if you're an author who is growing or even a giant author. Mm-hmm. You don't know who you don't know.
That's true.
So you don't know. So if you're not in your hotel room and it is just you or people you trust in your hotel room, be the way you want to present yourself professionally.
Yes.
And I'm not saying don't drink or anything, but I am saying you don't, particularly conventions in the Southeast, you don't know. There's a lot of overlap, particularly on the organizer sides of things. And you don't know what position they hold at other places. Yeah. For example, Regina Kirby is our senior director at Dragon Con. Very important position. Yeah. She is a shift lead in at least 2 other conventions, con suites.
Wow.
So you may be going in and being rude to just somebody in a con suite, and you may not know that that's somebody you need.
Yeah.
And I've actually had that. I had somebody at a con was incredibly rude to me and then emailed me because they needed to email the Fantasy Lit track director. And I went, yeah, I met you. Remember this moment? That was me. Oh, God. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, I do give people grace, and he's actually now somebody I am good friends with. But I think it took him a while to learn that rule because you just don't know.
Yeah. You can't, don't judge a book by its cover, though we all do, but don't judge a person, just at face value too.
But you just don't know where things are. Everyone, I will say this a lot, and if you follow my content, the closer we get to cons, I say it again. Everyone is someone to somebody.
Yes.
And because there are people who will still tell you that I am Jodi's sidekick. Because I went through a phase where I wasn't really volunteering as much at Dragon Con. And so Jodi, who is a very sweet, nice person, is trying to get to get through. Yes, money will take you tons of places where, manners will take you places where money won't. Always, yes. And I was like, well, I'll take you because I can throw elbows better than she can. I'm also 30 years younger than her, bigger than her, and my income is not reliant on on not elbowing somebody who may be a super fan.
Yeah.
So there were people who thought I was just her sidekick who showed up at book sightings and kind of treated me that way until they realized, wait, she's now the director. No. So, which is kind of how I didn't end up in this position because of just knowing Bill and Jodi, but because I volunteered at other conventions and they'd seen me handle things. And they know I have a strong passion for the community and the fans and the authors, and I treat everybody equally. I give everybody the chance to get up on stage and show me what they're worth, regardless of how I feel about them personally. So, and it's funny because I'll have people come up to me, Cisca, I only got 1 panel with you this year, or I got no panels with you this year. Are you mad at me? No, just schedules didn't fit.
Yeah. No, I definitely understand that.
If you want to be a vendor or join a panel. So, if you, the number one thing, particularly since applications are about to open on the 15th, is to apply to the convention as an attending professional or guest. And if you want to be an attending professional, you can just write on the application, we'll accept attending professional. It's like the secret. I don't know why it's a secret, but that is what it is.
It's a little. It looks a little weird, I think, on the applications. But yes, when you, that's that perfect.
That's really what you need to do, and for getting attending professional. And also, do not be that person who says, "Oh, well, I'll come to the con if you're going to give me a stipend and pay for." Like, I don't want to say you're not worth it, because you will be worth it to somebody, but be realistic. If you are not a huge author, asking for more support than, say, we give the standard person is going to be a little ridiculous. I knew somebody who had a great application last year, but then was like, wanted DragonCon to comp them a hotel room and lunches. And it's like, dude, you have 4 books out that you published all through Kickstarter. And his friend looked at him and she goes, I have 60 books out, 90 short stories, and over 20 New York Times best-selling books. And I don't ask for that.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, oh.
Yeah, but yeah, if you do the attending pro, that will give you the opportunities to be on panels and everything. The vendor hall is a different.
And that opens up in February.
And so. Yeah, and that is, at least for DragonCon, a very pricey thing. So be warned if you don't have
there is a wait list, in part because it's juried. So we what I mean by juried is we want to make sure that we are not overfilling the vendor hall with, say, t-shirt vendors. Yeah. And because there's only so many t-shirts a group of people are going to buy, no matter how many thousands of people there are. Yeah. And, but those are my primary ways. Now, if you want to be in the gather, you first have to be an attending professional or a guest. The selling space is limited to that. And then there will be a separate application that I'm going to email all the authors who've asked me to email them about it. And then I will be putting that out on blast on social media, but that won't be coming out till January.
Yeah, because you have to kind of know if you're an attending pro before you know.
Yeah, I've always let people apply, even if they're like, I don't know yet because I just filled out the form.
Okay.
But I do go through, and it's funny. There's not many questions on it. It's like author name and why, because my first time I did the form, somebody gave me an author name that I didn't know. I'm like, what? They were like, oh no, that's actually my legal name. And I'm like, I don't see you in the database. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to turn you down. And they went, Cisca, it's me. And I went, did you ever think that maybe telling me who you were would have been a better idea?
Memo, my pen name is ...
Yeah, well, their pen name, it was, their first name was the same, but their last name was a pen name on their books.
Yeah.
I'm like, so now there's author name on there. So, and this is the one that is listed in the database, because I do all the cross-checking for that. And we have, I want to say it was about 5 years ago, we started hitting the Regina calling me and going, I can't list all of these people in the app because it will break the app.
You're a lot.
You can't list 20 authors? What? By the way, you can normally only list like 6 in a panel. So 6 or 8 in a panel. Mm-hmm. So 20 was a big, like, yeah, no, you're funny.
Uh-huh.
So.
Yeah, no, I never thought about that, but I've never had to work with the mechanism or the mechanics of the apps and the platforms, which I will just say, I do like DragonCon's app. I've been to, and again, arguably smaller conventions. Some of their apps I'm not a fan of in the least. But DragonCon is actually one that makes sense, and it runs smoothly as far as I've dealt with it, and it's a great thing to have. So use the app.
As apps go, it works really well. There was one time where I went to a smaller con and Sked had just had an update, and it didn't list the moderators for any of the panels. On if you were like, I was a guest. And I went and I clicked, and it didn't show me the panel that I was moderating.
Oh, no.
But I'm like, I literally went, did I get kicked off?
Yeah.
So, and there went no, oh God, there was an update and now it's glitching. So you just don't know. And, but the app has been great. We do jokes a lot of times that the app is a very fluid thing, and so is the schedule, because we don't really know the schedule until the end of con.
Mm-hmm.
I just never know. I mean, I think there's a lot of what I do is running around and adjusting fire at the end of it. Of this person got food poisoning. That would be the one thing. Also, just be very careful of what your system takes, if that makes sense. When you go to a con, there's almost a sense of mania at cons.
Yeah, this one in particular, since it's pretty much a 24/7 thing, it is, you have to know how to self-regulate on, when you need to go to bed, and make sure you eat things that, are maybe a little balance of healthy and not, not to say, because it's a 5-day event, and
it's 5 days, and the panels and the content really do go 24/7. Dragon Con is a marathon run at the pace of a sprint.
Yeah.
And we love it for it, but we also are just dead for it afterwards.
We'll talk to y'all about a few more weeks. We need to just revamp and collect ourselves.
I have there's a report due by Monday after Dragon Con every year. And then we have our 3 reports due, 2 or 3 reports due 2 weeks after the con. And then I've been known on some years to put up an auto reply going, I'm dead. I will talk to you later.
Well, since I just looked up and I was the hours speeding by, let me ask a couple of things before the end of it for sure. One of which is, if anybody has other questions about this event or the mechanics behind it or what they should do or shouldn't do, who should they reach out? How should they reach out, etc.? What is your recommendation?
So if you have something, and say it's not literature related, but you want to, you're not sure where it goes. We have office@dragoncon.org, and there is a wonderful, intelligent, very patient person who will send that to the correct department, and which is great. I'm here on TikTok. There's fantasy literature at DragonCon on both YouTube, where we have a lot of our previous year's content, and going back, some of it as far back as 2018. The longer we've gone, the more there is of the years, because at first we were only recording a few panels. Authors really liked it, so we started doing more and more. Then I'm also on Facebook as Cisca Small. There's also fantasy literature track at DragonCon on Facebook. There's an Instagram. That's mine. The same name. I'm very creative with my naming.
It's good. It's branding it so people can find you easily.
Well, Cisca Small. The DragonCon started the Facebook page, and I just kind of was like, it works to just use the same name on YouTube because it is branding.
Yeah.
So those are the best ways if you want my opinion and advice, or if you just want generically someone. We all have official DragonCon emails. We're all very creative. Writers track is writers@DragonCon. Sci-fi, I think, literature is, sci-fi lit, because we also have a science track. So our urban fantasies, urban at DragonCon, I think. So, and if you're hey, I'm trying to reach this department, I don't know, also message me, because I will give it to you. I don't gatekeep information that I think is helpful for people. So
I love that. And one of the other things I want to make sure, because you've mentioned some of the dates already, but just to reiterate one more time, what are some of the important dates for people to remember who are interested in potentially getting involved or be?
So if you want to come to DragonCon, buy your badge sooner is cheaper. And if you want to apply to be on content, that opens up November 15th and goes through May 31st. That also, if say for a certain you're coming, but you'd like to be on content, go ahead, buy your badge. We'll refund you the badge after you get accepted, which is nice, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they always remember to tell people that, but we do.
No, they did not. I actually never knew that one. I was like, oh, that's good. It's good to know.
I'm told that we do, so I assume it's true. You just have to sometimes remember to put in the request. Then we have the vendors hall opening up in February. New volunteers, if you want to volunteer and be part of it, which is a great way to kind of learn and network the system without being on panels as an author. And we do use volunteers sometimes to moderate and be on panels too. So that application should open up, I think, in January or February. So right now they were loading up and giving all the directors the permissions for next year. And then we're going to start with the current volunteers we know are coming back. And then about February is when we open it up to newbies. And that's a great way to kind of get in the door, and you can request departments. And I always tell people it's 25 hours, which sounds like a lot, but once again, it's a 5-day con. And if you're doing it with people or on a subject you like, it really goes by. I actually have to kick my volunteers out to go take breaks because we all like each other, and we enjoy working with our authors and what we're doing. So it goes by really quick. Then we have the Dragon Awards, which nominations close for that July 19th. And then the publication period for what qualifies, it starts July 1st of this year and goes through June 1st of 2026, if I recall correctly. Mm-hmm. Or no, not June 1st, but the end of June. Okay. So basically July to July is the cutoff on that. So I think those are probably the biggest dates. And you can always pitch panels anytime and email people anytime. Not everybody's always great at returning emails. We are volunteers. We will get to you. Yeah. So it's not an insult if it takes a week. It's just life happens. Lives. The Gather application will be available in January. I think those are all the dates you might want.
That sounds. That was a lot. You got them. I was like, I'm impressed.
Well, I've been doing it for a while. Oh, and Page to Stage opens. Registration for that opens up June 1st.
What was that again? The
Page to Stage, if you want to compete in the cosplay competition that is all about bringing characters from books and interpretations of them to life. And I say interpretations because we've had somebody who came as the world of Narnia. Like she was the walking map of Narnia. It was gorgeous. And we had a period Victorian piece where the person had painted pages of Winnie the Pooh.
Wow.
Yeah. So we've had some amazing competitors in it. We have pretty good prizes for it too. And that starts June 1st.
That's really neat. That's cool. So let me ask one last question and then we'll wrap up. But like, is there anything that you think you want to cover or any question that you wanted to ask that we didn't get a chance to deal with today? Because I know we were heavily focused on the con versus your beta.
I think we went all kind of over the place in the spectrum of it because you and I can talk for hours on it. Okay. So we've done that.
Yes, we
have. And
your
husband is wonderful and keeps us happily hydrated during it.
That is very true, too.
Yes, between your husband and my brothers, we have an enabling audience.
That is... Oh, yes, and I'm okay with this. I'm actually
totally okay with it. My brothers will tell you that's their job.
They're the nicest brothers.
Amazing. So... thank you for having me, and if you want, I'll come back and we can talk about other things again or panels that go into development, because I will start putting, once we start programming in earnest and the database opens up for us to do it, I'll start announcing things periodically of like looking for panelists who can talk on knitting. We did a crafting panel one year. That was fun.
That is neat. That is neat. I love that. I do not know how to knit. Oh, my sister would be the one to do that one. So. That is not
our moderator didn't know how to knit, but we were just talked about it and it was a lot of fun, and lots of people brought their current work in progress, and it was a lot of fun.
I was gonna say, all I can do is reverse glass paint. Well, that's probably not all I can do. And origami! Fantasy origami.
Okay, fantasy origami's cool though.
But yeah, no, I mean, I love, again, the creativity of people like you and the panels that you come up with, and I know some of them are recommended by other people or suggested, but it's fun to see what you come up with every year and to be part of it. So, and thank you for coming and joining today for this last hour. I would love to have you again, and we can just chat some more at a later time, but it's well fun.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.